Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our August 2019 Teaching and Learning for Student Success monthly webinar. We're excited to be kicking off the academic year with two of Catch the Next established instructors and leaders, Drs. Ana Alanis and Daryl Reynolds, both from South Texas College. In today's webinar, Work Smarter, Not Harder, Ana and Daryl will present us with some strategies they use for co-teaching a government course with an INRW co-requisite component in keeping with the move to co-requisite developmental education in Texas. Before I turn it over to our speakers for today, I want to say a bit about the webinar series and go over a few housekeeping items to ensure everyone has a smooth webinar experience. First, Catch the Next is a college readiness and completion organization that offers faculty, staff, and institutional support to promote the closing of equity and achievement gaps in higher education through professional development, peer mentoring and coaching, and our community college student program, the ASCENDER program. The Teaching and Learning for Student Success monthly webinar series complements our professional development series by offering programming focused on the theory and implementation of student success initiatives in higher education. Please take a moment to visit www.catchthenext.org to learn more about our programs, to get involved, or to donate to support this and other programming. And now, for those new to the Catch the Next webinar experience and or those who need a reminder, please note that all attendees do come to the webinar muted. If you have a question during the presentation, please feel free to type it in the questions or chat pane and I will read it during Q&A. Oh, and I was going to say, and if you have a question and you have microphone or telephone audio access, you can also use the hand raise feature and I will unmute you so that you can speak to us directly. So since you do come to the webinar muted, if during Q&A session you would like to speak directly to our presenters, you can change your audio to a phone call if you don't have a microphone on your computer audio by selecting phone call there under audio in your control panel, and you will be given an access code and a PIN number to join the webinar through your phone. The questions pane can also be found in your control panel, and we can just go ahead and test this out real quick. Let's see. Right now in Texas, it is August, and I think we're on our 18th or 19th consecutive day of 100-degree weather. So if you would, in your questions pane, go ahead and send me a little note about where you are joining us from and what the weather is like there in your area, just to make sure if you have any questions. And then finally, if you do have audio access during the Q&A period, you can use that hand raise feature there in your control panel, and I'll unmute you so you can speak directly to our presenters. And of course, if you have any technical issues during the webinar, you can use the chat feature or the questions pane to communicate those issues to me, and we can troubleshoot them together. You can also email me at Lydia, Lydia, Cedebaca, Cedebaca, @catchthenext.org, and I'll do my best to help ensure you have a smooth webinar experience. So let's see, we're starting to hear from a few people. We've got Jody Denizen here in Austin. She says, my office is 65 degrees in Austin, thankfully, but I was always super cold in the building. Helen Daly, also in Austin. She says, good afternoon, everyone. Austin, Texas, 100 plus. Stacy Evans in San Antonio, Texas, 100 there too. And Jonathan Bell, welcome. He's in a meeting, but he is listening. Thank you so much. And Lillian Huerta also joining us from Austin, Texas. Thank you so much to all of you. And again, if you have any issues, please feel free to use that questions pane or email me, and we'll make sure we ensure you have the smoothest experience possible. So finally, if this is a topic you'd like to continue discussing, please connect with us on social media. You'll see at the bottom of this screen that we have our Facebook and Twitter pages there. If something catches your attention from the talk today or you want to continue the conversation, you can go on our social media and use the hashtag TLSSChat. Again, I always joke, much easier to type than it is to say. And TLSSS stands for Teaching and Learning for Student Success. So please definitely continue this conversation if this is something that you are interested in continuing to discuss with us. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our speakers for today, Drs. Ana Alanis and Daryl Reynolds. Ana Alanis earned a doctorate from Texas A&M Kingsville in educational leadership and a minor in English. She has a master's degree in education with an emphasis in reading from University of Texas Pan American, and her bachelor's degree is in interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis on bilingual bicultural education from UT Pan American. Dr. Alanis currently serves as the Asindad coordinator at South Texas College. She also teaches all components of the Asindad program and is currently a full-time developmental reading instructor and adjunct for the Education and English department. She adjuncts in the Teacher Bilingual program at Texas A&M University Kingsville, where she teaches Foundation of Literacy and Assessment, as well as Remediation in Reading and Student Teacher Supervisor. Dr. Alanis taught in public education at Roma ISD for 8 years. She has taught adult literacy courses as well. Dr. Alanis' passion is helping underserved students persist and graduate from college. Her dissertation is titled Beating the Odds, Perceptions of Successful Former Developmental College Students. Dr. Alanis has extensive experience in public and higher education systems. One of her passions is providing professional development to uncertified teachers to help them acquire their certification. She has presented reading strategies that work at the Effective Border Schools Bilingual Conference. She has also presented Beating the Odds, Perceptions of Successful Former Developmental College Students at the NAID Conference, and she has conducted teacher professional development titled Promoting Early Literacy and Integrated Reading and Writing into the Curriculum at Local Elementary Schools. And now she has also presented extensively on the topic that she'll be co-presenting on today as well, along with her co-presenter, Dr. Daryl Reynolds. Daryl Reynolds has a Doctor of Arts in Political Science, a Master of Health Education, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Secondary Education from Idaho State University, as well as a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Work from New Mexico Highlands University. His professional higher education teaching experience includes being a political science professor at South Texas College in McAllen, Texas, and a political science instructor at Idaho State University. His professional secondary education teaching experience includes being a summer school American government and economics teacher at Century High School in Pocatello, Idaho, and a substitute social sciences and health education teacher at Pocatello, Idaho School District. Dr. Reynolds has many scholarly publications, including Understanding How the Gradual Democratization of the United States Constitution Impacted the 2016 Presidential Election Results, to be published in the 2019 issue of National Social Science Proceedings, as well as How Two Key Political Events Impacted the Presidential Legacies of Four Presidents of the United States, published in the 2018 issue of National Social Science Proceedings. So you see that we are very, very privileged to have these two wonderful speakers with us today. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them.
So welcome. We couldn't type because our computer's pretty far, but we are in Boca Grande at STC, and it's 100 plus. So we're going to put up our presentation. Dr. Reynolds, you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank y'all for having us today. It's a privilege that we're here, and we're dedicated here to try to do the best job we can do today.
So we're gonna share a couple of the assignments that we incorporate in our classrooms, both of us, to make both our lives easier. So we'll go ahead and start.
Yes.
Okay, some of the activities that we do in the classroom is creating and using different classroom activities. In Daryl's class, he does a narrative of the Bill of Rights, and he does an activity in his class, and I do an extension of that, and we will share with you these projects in a bit. We also do the integrated reading and writing activities. We'll be talking about the public poll public opinion poll activity, and the core objectives activity, more in detail.
Okay, one of the things that I just want to point out at this moment is that when we're creating these activities, we always try to keep in mind that these activities want to lead to discussions about the topics and concepts of the course that relate to the personal and social experiences of the students. So that's pretty important. And I think those ideas grew on me from being a part of the training for the S&DARE program. So we try to do that. And also another thing that's probably stressed a lot is that once you create the activity, the second step is, yes, obviously we have to like put it into practice. So when it comes to practice, we try to have these activities that were created to then sort through them and use the ones that actually then allow the students to complete the learning objectives again by reading, writing, and speaking. So those activities allow that to happen. And working with Dr. Alanis and integrated reading and writing, so I think that, you know, that is probably the best way to approach that as well. Yeah. Okay.
So you want to start on this one?
So one of the activities, yes, that we use is called a narrative of my Bill of Rights. And of course, the word narrative, we picked that up from training, you know, narrative of this and that. So what it's all about, the learning objective here is in a political science or federal government class, you learn about the Bill of Rights and the purpose of them and how they relate to your life. So we have the students who like want them to explain why it's so very important for them to have the Bill of Rights in their everyday life. So this activity allows them to write about that. First of all, think about that and write about like why they think it's important for them to have one of those particular Bill of Rights in their life. So they get to focus on one of the Bill of Rights. After they read all 10 of them, then they can focus on one of them and decide how they want to explain why that one is so important to them.
So Daryl does that activity in his class. They have to explain how the Bill of Rights are important to them. So in my course, we go over the Bill of Rights, we read them, they define what they mean in their own words, we do group activities. So when they go to his class, they have an idea of what these Bill of Rights are, and they're able to choose which one applies or which one they want to write more in depth in his class. So I'm supporting what's going on in his class. So students, when they leave my class, know that they feel more empowered in his class because they know when he's talking about the Bill of Rights, we've gone over them and I've explained to them what they mean, and we figured that out through group activities. And now they can go ahead and go in his class and write that 280-word essay.
Yes. Yeah, we think that activity is, the students, we think they like it. Mm-hmm. They show all signs that they do like it, and actually, I do too. so basically, I think that works pretty good for the program itself as well. So
I like anything in his class that has to do with reading and writing. And the first semester, I used my book. The first semester we worked together. The second semester, the required textbook in my classroom was his textbook. So we would be reading the chapters that he was covering, and it was becoming more to try to help them understand. All my reading skills were being done through the government textbook.
Okay. Now I think this next slide, we're just gonna show like an idea of a form that can be created to pass out to the students in order to get them to facilitate doing this assignment basically from scratch first before they type it out. Okay. So this would be like the first part of the handout where they see all the Bill of Rights, and then they know exactly what they are. And once they define them, they could come up with a definition like, as you can see, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution or something like that. And then they will pick one of these that they think is very important to them in their everyday lives. And once they do that, then they could go on to the second part of the process. Once they read that, then they can start writing their definition and pick one and write their 280-word essay about it, why it's important for them to have that in their everyday life. And so that would be an idea, like you're going to give them the activity in paper form, something that they can feel and see, and then follow the instructions that way. And on the right side of this slide, hopefully y'all can see some of the beautiful students that Dr. Alamise shares with me in this program.
Oh.
Yes.
Our students.
Yes, okay. So yeah, how that it multiplies. Okay, we turn the mic back over to Dr. Alamise.
Okay, the reading and writing activities, the objective is to get the students to read primary documents and secondary documents and to be able to express in writing the theses of the concept that's being read. I want them to comprehend. I teach them how to write a thesis statement when they're going to communicate in their writing, when they're writing to Dr. Reynolds. So the instructions are to read a selected federal government document. And it seems that every semester we work together, we come up with new assignments. But I think that has to do a lot with us working together and attending conferences together. We went to a Houston conference in the summer and we attended the same sessions. And these activities were born from that professional development. So we identify and write, the students have to learn to identify the thesis statement of the document and to write 4 key concepts from that thesis. And so he gives them 3 documents and the students have to choose 2 to turn in his class. Well, because I know that if we give them that choice, they're only going to read 2. So in my class, we read all 3 and they respond to all 3 and then they choose which of the 2 they like the most to turn into Dr. Reynolds' class. In the next couple of slides, you'll see these readings that Dr. Reynolds so kindly shared with me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. This one, the Seneca Falls Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions of 1848. And I think the next one is on, that's their response. And the following one is the Cesar Chavez Organizing Farm Workers from the 1970s. And we do the same thing, but there's 3, but we did put all 3 here. But in my class, they respond, I use them as journal writings, 4 journal writings, and in Dr. Reynolds' class, it's a formal assignment that they turn in as an activity. So go on to.
Yes. Now, the next activity that we want to share today, the public opinion poll activity, this is where the learning objective is for the students to define public opinion poll, define it. You know, we're studying that in class, so they want to define it, and then answer a public opinion poll question about a specific political issue, and then discuss how they acquired their opinion on that specific political issue. So basically, I'm going to give the students like 4 public opinion poll questions on 4 specific issues. They're going to pick one of those that they want to share their opinion on. In other words, they're going to pick one of those questions that they want to answer, and then once they answer that question, then they're going to share their personal experiences by writing how they acquired that particular answer or opinion to that issue. And so when we study that in class, of course, they learn that people get their opinions, their answers to these questions from their family, from their schools, from their church, their religious institutions. They learn all of that. So they're going to be able to share, and of course, their personal and social experiences themselves. So they are going to share that. So that's what this activity is about. It's another activity that allows the students to express themselves that way and plus adhere to the learning objectives. It's highly liked by myself as well as the students. And so this is the 4 questions here that they are choosing right now, these questions, and the answers that they pick from. It's actually Gallup asked this question. Gallup poll, very popular poll and reliable. And so they are going to participate in the Gallup poll. And once they do that, of course, then they read that, and then they have the rest of the form to scribble down their answers, like what's their opinion, what's their definition of public opinion, and then how they acquired their very own individual opinion on that specific political issue. So that's what it's about. And so now to enlighten you more on that and to spice it up, Dr. Alanis is going to say how she uses this part in her class, and we bring it all together.
When I do argument when we get to this portion of Daryl's class, because my students would, when they would choose, let's say one of them is abortion or gun control, they would flip-flop on the argument, and I would say, no, you support it or you're against it, and it so lends it way for me to teach argument. And students, they like controversial issues. So this is one of my favorite writing assignments, because I tell them, what do you believe and why do you believe this? And I love it. I love this assignment. I think we had it included at the webinar at the beginning, and then we decided that it's one of the ones the students really like to write about. And they get enthusiastic about reading about the topic and writing and supporting the argument that they want to make. And they truly come to understand that when they're arguing a point, they can say, oh yeah, but this is also important, and they're not really taking a side. So this is one of my favorite assignments.
Yeah.
Well, all his writing assignments are everything that has to do with reading and writing are favorite for me.
Yeah.
You can go to the next. Can I do that one?
Yeah. So in across Texas, in higher education, we have core objectives we all know about. So we have this core objective activities that we have to do, core objective assignments. So basically, it fits very well in this program. So we have a core objective assignment that deals with critical thinking skills. That's one of the core objectives. So critical thinking in higher education, we're supposed to be able to involve students in critical thinking, creative thinking, new thinking, like innovative thinking, and get them to think about what they're learning, inquire, ask questions, and then break it down, analyze it, notice the different parts of the Constitution, per se, if they're studying that, the different parts of the Bill of Rights, like there are 10, but what are the 10? Notice the different parts and how they are related together. The different parts of the First Amendment, just simply put, how those parts all, maybe they find out that's all expression. So how they relate once they break it up, and then they can put it back together and synthesize it and come up with something new. Like that's all expression right there. So basically, so what we try to do is to bring that out of students, to let them know that they are doing critical thinking skills. And again, it involves allowing them to share their personal experiences while they're learning this. So we have them to write 140-word summary of some information that was provided to them from a selected article that comes from the president's desk, to put it simply. Yeah. The president's information that's been given to them. So they get to read this, and it could be about immigration policy that the president is prescribing, or it could be about immigration policy that deals with the border wall, how the president plans to handle that. And so they get to read that, and it's right from the president, and they can summarize the article. So by taking a big article from the president and summarizing it, say like 140 words. So folks, that's like a paragraph, but that means that they can then do things like critical thinking to be able to take something that's 2 pages long and break it down and bring in the most important parts of that and know what, it's all about.
And they synthesize this, and it seems like it's something not very complicated, but when this semester, it was one from the border wall, and he's always choosing, every semester he chooses a very relevant and current issue from the president's desk. This semester it was on border wall, and it had some sarcasm in there, and some of the students didn't get it. So we had to go in depth and say, okay, analyze the piece and what is it saying. Last semester, it was bullets on information, and students had a lot of difficulty understanding that sometimes when an article is in bullets and has a lot of statistical information, it's more difficult to synthesize that than it is when you're reading a regular written article. But I think that challenges them to be able to read higher level readings material and prepares them for further on for their other classes. And I think the fact that it's guided makes it so much relevant to them, and it helps them understand how most of the college courses work, and to have the support in INRW, I think the students really value that. And this is one of the assignments. There's the link to the article, and then that's where they start with a summary. That's the first. This is a 4-part assignment, and this is the very first assignment that we worked on together.
Yes.
And the other ones that we presented before, we've been adding to the class, but this 4-part one was one of the very first ones that we developed as we started working together.
Yeah, so the first part is, again, like Dr. Eloise mentioned, first they download the article and then they summarize it. So we'll go to the second part, is where the core objective is communication skills. Here they have to basically interpret the article and express their ideas, either written, orally, or visual. Again, so they just summarized the article from the president's desk. So now they're going to demonstrate communication skills by writing, again, after they read that, write an essay, a paragraph that explains why they are interested in the information or why they are not interested. So they get to choose. So again, they're allowed to express their ideas, their interpretation of this information, and in a way to just say, I'm interested in this. Well, why are you interested in that? I'm not interested in this. Well, why are you not interested in this? So communication skills. So it's pretty open for them and free to express your feelings.
Yeah. So as long as they support what they're saying, and that's something that I teach in my class is you write your thesis statement and then you support it. So yeah, I'm interested in the information that's being presented, and why? What are the reasons? How does it affect you? How does it affect your family? How does it affect the wall? How is it going to, this past one that we did this semester was on the border wall. How would it affect, we live 5 minutes, our college is 5 minutes away from where the border wall would be built. So how does it interest you or not? Do you not care if the wall is built there? But yeah, it's very open to their opinions.
Yeah, interest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, that's the form they can do their scribbling on. After they download the article, of course, then they can do their writing with pen or pencil first before they decide to type it to turn it in for the credit.
And there's Dr. Reynolds playing Loteria on our Noche de Familia.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, then the third part is a core objective is personal responsibility. Simply put, the students have to be able to demonstrate that they understand their actions, the choices that they make, and the actions that they take have consequences. They have consequences. So these decisions have consequences. So there's a lot of activities that can be done to to get grading or get accountability for responsibility as a student. So here's what we have chosen to use together. For personal responsibility, have students again write a statement, a paragraph about the key ways that the information from the president's desk can have an impact on the people of the United States. So if you have an article about the president saying, I'm going to put up a border wall for these reasons, and then they read that, and maybe they've said they are not interested in that already, but setting that aside, how does this information about what the president is going to do, how do you think that's going to impact the people of the United States? What is that action going to do to the United States? So they get to so they understand that the choice that the president is making will have this impact, this consequence on the country. And so they're showing that they understand personal responsibility that way as well, where your choices that you make have an impact. And we remind them that if you don't go to class on a regular basis, that could be personal responsibility, where your teachers could say, I'm grading on attendance. You get 10% of your grade. So if you are responsible for 30 days to participate in class, every 10% of that is a letter grade. So you have to go to class at least 27 days to get an A for attendance. But that's 90% though of the 10 points that you get, 9. So we understand that there's consequence. So we have been looking at, if the president does this, what impact do you think, how will that impact the people? Again, you're going to get different answers, but they get to look at the consequences of their actions. Yeah. And what people might do even. They even look at that. People might start protesting. Here in the Valley, he may not be welcome here anymore. It might make people respond to him like me. That's what they might say. You will get that.
Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah.
So
and
yeah.
The discussions in the class when we're doing this assignment in class are everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I tell them that's democracy. Is we all are entitled to our opinions. But here we talk about how does what we read on the article, how does that affect the United States?
Yes.
For some of them, that's kind of difficult, but once we start discussing it in class, they sort of get the idea of what we're talking about, and they understand personal responsibility.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth, that's the form again, scribble it. And then the fourth and last is the social responsibility. Here, students have to understand, have competence and knowledge about their culture. In SNDEF program, we love culture, their culture, and as well as other people's cultures. So you have this intercultural competence, but you also have knowledge that you are a citizen in a world of many different cultures, in the U.S. especially. So you have this responsibility as a social person to be able to engage effectively in other cultures in your region and state and community, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
Around the world. So basically, to demonstrate that, have students, they're still going to download this article from the president's desk, and they're going to say, okay, so the president is planning to build a wall. So their culture may not like that, but that will be the president's culture. So they would find a way to respond to the president and let them know as a citizen that they don't want them to do that and why, or they do want them to do that. So they're able to write a letter to the president, which they actually do. Once they fill this out, write a letter to the president, letting the president know what actions they really want the government to take in response to this information that they have learned from the president himself. So that's social responsibility. They're able to engage effectively in these different communities and different cultures, and still defend their interests and their culture and their knowledge as well.
I love this part of the assignment. I teach my students how to write a formal business letter, and I'm impressed by the quality of the letters that they write. We co-rect a class this summer too, which was not a Sendero, it was just a co-rect class. And one student got hung up on the fact that Dr. Reynolds was going to give them 6 extra points if they submitted the letter, or something.
6 points, yes.
6 points. And she kept saying she's going to give me 6 points. Yes, but there's 3 other parts to the assignment. Let's focus on the 3 other parts of the assignment. But I like this portion because a lot of students need, when they apply and they do resumes, they have to do a letter of intent, and they have no idea how to write that letter. So while I'm teaching them how to write the formal letter, we talk about how to write a letter of intent, how to write any formal letter, and then I let them go and they write this letter to the president, and they are very formal.
Yes. Very formal. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And here's their where this is their planning sheet, and the address where they submitted. And then they, after they submit, they get a response back that they have submitted, and then they turn in that to Dr. Reynolds and myself as proof.
Yeah. That's exactly how we know that they sent the letter. So when they submit the letter to the White House, then the president's office gives them a receipt. I call it a receipt, confirmation that they did send the letter and it was received. That is what they turn in to me to get credit for doing the social responsibility. If they do not send the letter to the president, they just turn in their writing to me, writing to me, they turn that in to me. They're still going to get credit for their writing, but the 6 points that Anna mentioned, they will not get that because they did not complete the full social responsibility component, core objective, because that is, we're requiring that they do engage effectively in these other communities.
Okay, so in INRW, I do additional things to support the learning of our students. Quizlet, I don't know how many of you use it, but I've learned to use the Quizlet Live, and it forces students to work together to prepare them for the exam. I do study groups, I do study sessions, we do discussions. I have them do graphic organizers to connect the information from the chapter. We outline the chapters. We do readings outside of the chapters that Dr. Reynolds is covering. I use mnemonic devices to teach them to remember. There's a lot of articles and definitions that they have to learn for their government exams, and I teach them how to use the mnemonic devices and how to teach. We do a lot about study strategies, because if they don't start studying early on, they're not going to get the grade that they want. And at the end of the semester, I have them write a reflective essay on what they felt or how they felt working in both courses. And most of them are very, very positive. And let's go to 2. So we're open for Q&A. And we thank you for being with us.
Yay.
You can see us now.
Yay.
Thank you both so much. This is really amazing. I mean, especially considering the short amount of time that, these co-requisites have been in place. I'm thoroughly impressed with the quality of your curriculum design and with your obviously close relationship. So I do want to open up to Q&A. Kind of related to that, though, to that idea, while people are thinking of your questions, and just to remind the attendees, you can feel free to type your questions into the questions pane and I'll read them for you. Or if you do have audio access, feel free to use the hand raise feature on your control panel and I'll unmute you so that you can speak to Drs. Alanis and Reynolds yourself. So one question that I have for you is, as I was saying, I'm really been struck by how much you have collaborated to, as you were speaking, I was like, oh, that's why it's called Work Smarter, Not Harder. But you mentioned even going to professional development together and being intentional about attending the same sessions and things like that. And you've had the opportunity to work with each other now a few semesters. So my question is, I've spoken with a lot of faculty who have been maybe less intentionally placed with their co-requisite partners, or, just due to staffing restrictions and things like that. So what advice would you give to somebody who has been assigned to teach a co-requisite and doesn't necessarily have that time to really intentionally collaborate on the curriculum? What are the essentials, the fundamentals of what co-requisite teaching partners need to do?
I think that I was involved in co-requisites when we piloted them before they became law. So I knew a long ahead of time that this was coming, and I approached Daryl even when I knew that in the future that's what we were going. And I remember a colleague being in the classroom and saying, "Don't say no, say no, say no." And he said, "No, yeah, I'm interested." But I think that I approached my dean and I said, my department, we're the only government instructor, he's the only government right now actually doing co-recs. I think more of his department is going to get involved, but we're co-recing reading, co-recing with history. But I needed somebody that was full-time in STAR and that had the same vision of student success that I had. So that's why I approached my dean and asked her, I said, "Daryl is interested, what do you think?" And she said, "Oh, well, okay, go ahead." But I think that only makes our program much richer because we had already worked before together. And our dean, tomorrow, we have, before the semester starts, every semester, she makes half a day for the teams to meet, for us to meet each other, for us to work together. And she has, I think we have like 2 hours for anybody co-recing INRW history or INRW government. And then there's 2 hours for anybody co-recing INRW English. So I think that that's imperative because I might bring some ideas to the table, and so might Daryl, and then there's where we iron them out. And last semester I had 2 partners, and so I would meet with both of my partners at that time. Not everybody attends, but if you're really intentional about making this work and you really if you really care about student success and you really want to make this work, you'll attend those sessions. And most of our faculty attend.
That's great. Yeah, that's great that there's that opportunity to collaborate beforehand.
Yeah.
Dr. Reynolds, what advice would you give?
I think everything Anna said is on point. I agree with all of that. And so she just helped put that into my mind as well. But so I'm thinking that that question is because I've always had a partner and we always work good together to bounce ideas off and to work together. So it just came natural to us. I never really experienced the other part of the question where, what if you didn't have that? Well, I never experienced that. So I would have to go deep into my knowledge and my experience and go, oh, if I didn't have that, what would I do then if we didn't work closely together? So I look around the world here and I go, there's people who don't have what we got. So what do they need to do? So I've heard people tell me they maybe meet, they don't never see each other. That's not good. They complain a lot. If you don't have that, you complain. So I guess you would have to start reaching out to each other because you will be lost. I mean, your partner's out there, but y'all will collaborate. So I don't think that relationship will work too good. I mean, because you'll feel like maybe you're cheating the system too. You're cheating your school. You're cheating your student. You're probably getting paid, but you're like, oh, I didn't really do what I need to do. When they give you that, if they give you the pay for it, you still would have that idea. So that idea will be, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So you'll be motivated to go out and get together and stay out of trouble and do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think
That's a great point.
Yeah, you reach out to each
You
other.
have to
Yeah.
reach out to each other.
That's what you would start doing. Yeah.
And build that relationship.
Yeah.
It was 7 years ago, I was paired with Juan when I started us, and we had never worked together. And we made it a point to build a relationship. When he was out here in Star, we would go have lunch together so we could talk about lessons.
Yeah.
But I think if you're just paired like that, you need to make it intentional to meet at some time, at some point. And, it doesn't take a lot of time. It just, if you're already thinking about it, the times that you meet, you don't have to spend too much time, but you do need to get together at one point.
And you need to prepare yourself for the meetings too. But the meetings is entry. Like when we first initiated our meetings, when me and Anna come together, we actually don't know what we're going to be doing. We come together and we talk about the different ideas. And we go to these conferences. I think that's key. And then you learn like what it is your mission is probably about. So when you do come together for the first time, you have a pretty good idea of what it is that you're supposed to do.
Right.
And you read the missions of S&Dare from the handouts and the newsletter. You have an idea what it is the program is about. And so maybe you went to the training. So when you come together, y'all have an idea already based on what you know you should be trying to bring to the table. So when y'all come together, it's like, and you're both really trying to do that, y'all are gonna naturally just probably work together to help that program strive. And then you're gonna get a common goal to work on. So because you already got the knowledge, you worked on your own and you did your thing, and you became like immersed with that and that idea. And so, or you'll just leave it alone. You'll just say, I don't want to deal with it then. I don't want to do it. It's not for you. If you say it's for you, then you'll try to work hard for y'all to make it. You start reaching out to each other because, you want to make it work.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that another best practice that I see you both modeling is that backwards design, like backwards curriculum design, where you're starting with, all right, what are the student learning objectives? What are the core objectives? And then how are we going to work together to create assignments and lessons that get students to the skills and knowledge that they need?
Yeah, and you have to learn how to compromise. Because I feel real strong about my American literature. And when we were trying to decide which two articles we were going to put up, I said, we have to leave Chavez there. And he said, well, we have to leave the women's rights there. So we didn't put Washington's letter. Yeah. So we have to learn to compromise and to make it work.
That's a great point. Well, we have a comment now from, let's see, Dr. Maria Chavez, our CEO of Catch the Next. Let's see. Dr. Chavez, I'm having trouble unmuting you. Could you type your comment for me, and I will read that. We also have a few other questions and comments from some other participants. Lillian Huerta is asking, will the PowerPoint be made available? And if so, where? I can answer that one for you. So we do have an archive page of webinars on the Catch the Next website where the PowerPoint and the recording of the webinar will be available. So I'll make sure and send that out to you all as well. She also says, thank you so much to Dr. Alanis and Reynolds. Beautiful job, so empowering for our students and faculty. We also have a couple of questions from Cindy Marroquin. She says, it was an awesome presentation. I was wondering, since you all do so much for our students, different student activities, what would be the percentage of the students who have successfully passed both courses versus just one course?
Let me start. I want to start this one off first because, see, I'm going to leave the best for last for this answer. Alanis is going to handle it. But so the pass rate on these assignments that you just saw, they're going to be at probably 100%. Now, the overall course, this past summer we taught. So every student passed that were in the class, in my class, and there was one student with a D. But that student really, they are supposed to have a higher grade, but they earned a D because of some other, I guess, circumstances that are in their life that caused them to maybe not have the proper time to put forward. But all the students were capable of getting an A, B, or C. And so the grades, the passing rates, we continue to improve. Now the raw numbers, Dr. Alanis can take care of.
I have them, but I don't have them right here with me. I know we are doing every semester, we're increasing percentage-wise.
Yes.
I want to say that the students that don't pass our classes is because they really, really don't try. Because we got together in the summer and we talked about our students' scores, and he said, look, this student didn't, and then we spoke to the student, but they have to do their part. But we have a very high percentage passing rate in our classes.
That's great. Thank you. And we have from Dr. Chavez, I want to say thank you for doing the seminar and for agreeing to pair up to do a co-rec course. I was wondering, what issues do students find most pressing?
I think for our summer course, and it wasn't an Ascender class, it was just a regular co-requisite course, I think it was the amount of material from both classes in such a short time. In the regular semester, one of the things that I think the students struggle the most, in my class, my curriculum continues to be the same that I had before in Ascender. My students still do their 5 essays. I have incorporated 2 of those essays that are turned into Daryl. The core objectives became one of my essays. Reading the Mexican literature still continues, in addition to everything else we read. But I think the biggest issue with our students is the amount of material that they have to learn. And that's why in my class I do study sessions, and Daryl's class is actually, it's not a freshman course, right? It's a sophomore course. So they have to work hard at passing the class, and we provide the tools and they have to do the work. And I think that's one of the material is difficult, but being so, students still do very well. Mm-hmm. They continue, when they take English 1301 with me in the Ascender program, they'll take his second part of the government. Regardless of how they did the first time around, they will go back and take his course.
So, okay, Dr. Chavez. So, and we have this. So, I'm thinking tests. So, if students like tests, so Dr. Alanis tries to help students in the classes by going over the study guide with them for a second time in a different way than I do it. So they use the mapping, the mind mapping and stuff to show how the ideas are related, how the study guide actually goes from one thing, and related things. So she uses that to help them out. And so I think the idea of test anxiety and all those things that we talk about with our counseling and psychology, those things is important for us to try to relieve these test anxieties and barriers that get in the way once a student comes into the class and they go blank or they get frightened and they can't think about the test, performing on the test, because other things have gotten in the way of all the work that they put in to prepare for those things, and then bam. So we try overcome those type of anxieties and let them know, like, to just prepare themselves and feel relaxed and loose when they're doing it. And that's one of if they need time as much, if you need extra time, you get extra time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Deb Macbeth, who says, wonderful presentation. It shows what can happen when teaching is done with heart. Dr. Chavez also adds that she really likes the way that you both address political issues in an objective and non-biased manner. And from Helen Daly at Austin Community College, she says, great information. I do not co-teach, but I do try to keep track of what is happening in the courses of my cohort so we can tie skills being taught in my class to their needs. I have found this adds value to the content of my course and improves their performance, self-reported, in their other courses. It sounds like I should reach out to the other instructors to make this connection more intentional, and thank you.
Thank you.
And then
Thank
finally,
you for allowing us to present, to share a little of what we do, because this is the second part of working smarter, not harder.
absolutely, and hopefully we can have you back. I know there's so many questions that I have, and we're coming to the end of our hour. Dr. Chavez also says on her behalf and on behalf of Catch the Next, thank you for your leadership and your commitment to excellence. So again, hopefully we can have you back. I know we'll definitely have you both in some of our in-person professional development events. But yeah, it's such a broad issue, and there's so much more to say, and you both are just shining stars of excellence in this co-requisite movement. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I am going to, speaking of our in-person professional development events, I have a couple of announcements here. So the first is to save the date. Those of you who are ASCENDER members or at member colleges, our ASCENDER Fall Seminar will be held October 25th through 26th at the Hotel Indigo in San Antonio, and that's the Hotel Indigo Riverwalk. Also, everyone stay tuned for more information about our fall reception. This year will be the first year that our this semester actually will be the first year that our fall reception will be made a fundraiser, and that will be on the evening of October 25th. And so stay tuned for more on that, including who our speakers will be and how you can get involved to support CTN programming. Also, Catch the Next is proud to have been nominated for a Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board Star Award. We look forward to hearing about who the winners of that award are. Also, just wanted to let you know, we do have South by Southwest coming up in the spring. And South by Southwest, for those who don't know, is an education, tech, film, and music festival or showcase here in Austin, Texas. And Catch the Next has actually 2 panels that were nominated for the education portion. You can go to the South by Southwest panel picker. If you just Google that, you'll have to create a login, but you can vote for panels. So we'd appreciate it if you give our 2 panels an upvote. The first one was submitted by our own Stacey Ibarra, and it's called Latinx for Student Success. And that is in the higher education track on the meetup format and the deep understanding level. And I'm telling you this because you can filter through the presentations to find these by filtering through the track format and level. The other one was submitted by Allegra Villarreal and also features our CEO, Dr. Maria Mata Chavez. And it is titled Unlearning to Transform the College Classroom. And it's on the equity track in the workshop format and the field experience level. And then finally, just a couple of announcements about preliminary research from the Texas Education Research Center, who we've been partnering with to do a longitudinal study on our ASCENDER program. Some of the positive results that preliminary research shows are that Catch the Next students have greater odds of obtaining a bachelor's level certificate and a higher rate of obtaining any higher education certificate than a control group that hasn't gone through the program. Also, ASCENDER students accumulate 1/3 of the student loan debt compared to the control group. And the study also found that our students on average get awarded 30% of the total awarded amount of aid awarded to an average per student annually. Also our students, the study showed also tend to get more grants and scholarships compared to loans in comparison to the control group students. So we're excited about what future research from the Turk study shows, and we will keep you updated on all of that. In the meantime, please join us next month for Emmett Campos with Project Males, and you'll all be receiving an update on that. You can also check out our newsletter always with updates with what's going on the campuses in the program, and for more information about the monthly webinar series. Another big thank you. We can't get a round of applause, but I'll clap for you. So another huge thank you to Dr. Alanis and Dr. Reynolds for the amazing work that you're doing and for taking the time to share that work and your best practices with our familia here at Catch the Next through our monthly webinar series. And everyone have a wonderful evening. Have an excellent start to the academic year, and we'll see you next month. Thanks so much.
Thanks. I don't know where to get this.